morning. I am so excited to be here. This is my first Million Cups as well, so thanks for having me. As she said, I am LaCroix. I'm a business strategist. So out of curiosity, if 100 businesses start today, how many do you think will be in business 10 years from now?
20.
20, 30. 30's the right, it's like 30%. Okay? And, oh, hi.
Hi.
I love when I meet to see people that I see other places. I meet them. It's about 30%. And nobody said a really high number because we all know that starting business is really risky. And there are lots of things that we can do to increase the sustainability of a business. And that's what I do. And I came into this because I was that entrepreneur that just worked 24/7, worked all the time to the point that I became sick and burnt out and everything. And I realized there had to be a better way. And part of this, I really had to fight because if you look out there in social media and everything, hustle, sleep when you're dead, work 24/7, and that's kind of the push. And I realized this is not the way that the push should be. We should be looking to build businesses that are more sustainable for the long term. Most entrepreneurs that I know don't want to be out of business in 10 years. They want to be in business for a long time. They want it to provide a decent living, and they want it to be something that is good for them. So when I looked at all those things, my own experience, plus working with entrepreneurs for a long time, I realized that I wanted to create something that was a little bit different than what was out there. When you look at stuff that's out there, almost everything is geared towards businesses. They call them small businesses, but maybe 100 employees. If you have 100 employees, you can have a department. You can have somebody in charge of stuff. If you work by yourself or with a small team, you are all the departments. And there are not a lot of resources for a business where everything is you. Everything is you. And that's what I wanted to create. There's a lot of stuff out there about how to market, how to get customers, but what I work on is I work on behind the scenes. How do you set up systems so that you can have a sustainable, healthy business for a long, long time, and your business can work for you instead of the other way around? And I wanted that for myself, and I want it for other people. One of the big differences between a business of 100 people and a business of 1 or 2 or 3 people is that the health of the entrepreneur dictates the health of the business. If the entrepreneur is unhealthy, the business is unhealthy and therefore unsustainable, period. So we have to create healthy entrepreneurs, and the way that I like to do that is say, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want your schedule to be? What do you want to do on a daily basis? And let's work backwards and set up the systems that help you do that for the long term so that you can, if you want to be home by 3 because your kids are coming home at 3, let's set that up. If you want to take 10 weeks off a year to sail to wherever, I don't know why I picked sailing. I don't sail. It's not like the goal of mine, so I picked like a random thing. But if you want to do that, let's set up the systems so that you can do that, because a healthy entrepreneur equals a healthy business. The breakdown that I most often see is in the systems, and that is why I feel like systems are so important. On a side note, I'm a functional medicine practitioner. Most of my work is in the healthcare sphere, and I thought these two things need to be combined. Let's take the functional approach to medicine, which is looking at how disease and sickness affects a person in their relationships and their work life and their mindset, and let's take that approach and place it into a business and say, how can we make a functional business, a business that is healthy, that can live a long, great life and provide the best for the owner that is there running it all the time. So I took my healthcare background and I took my business background and I said, let's create things for small business owners that want to be healthy for a long time. I do that through my podcast primarily, which is like, who's addicted to podcasts? Is anybody in here? Like 2 people? Okay, I'm completely addicted to podcasts, so I made one. And I do that through my podcast, and I do it through online courses, and I do it through one-on-one consulting. So that is just a brief summary that's probably close to 6 minutes of what I do.
You actually have 1 more minute if you want it, or we can just kick
I'm
it
good.
to Q&A.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could ask me questions. I like
Amen. Preach it.
So what are your challenges? What challenges are you facing that we can?
I think the biggest challenge is having people understand that they need to get organized, because most of the time when I reach an entrepreneur, they're so overwhelmed, they can't imagine backing up and creating a system and taking the time to do that. So probably my biggest challenge is communicating how much time you'll get back if you set up systems and you take the time to do that. Most people are like, tell me how to get more customers. And I'm like, nope, that's important, but that's not what I do. So my biggest challenge is communicating how necessary systems are.
And how do you do that now?
I do it mainly on my podcast. That's kind of what I do. I've been working with entrepreneurs for about 15 years, but I've made my podcast on my online space is the newer. And so I do it primarily through podcasting and a lot of word of mouth. A lot of people that have worked with me before tell other people, oh, you got to work with her because she will get you organized. So that's probably my biggest challenge, is communicating the importance of it. Wendy?
That was going to be my question, is how are you finding your clients? How do they find your podcast? I think your social media is good. I told you the other day, I didn't even know you were in Wenatchee, and you work with people everywhere. So what's the most effective way that you're finding clients, and how are they finding you?
Well, I have a massage school. So Columbia River Institute of Massage Therapy, if people are familiar with that, is my other business. And most of my clients have come from my graduates who are starting a business, and then they've told other people, and that's helped me spread out to other places. But as you said, Wendy, I've done so much of my work in other places, and I really haven't put down roots in Wenatchee as a business outside of the work that I do with my graduates. So people find me really almost 100% by word of mouth or my podcast.
Who's your key client? Who are you looking for as a client?
A small business owner who either works by themselves or a team of 5 or less people. The tiny business owner that really they want more time. That's probably the biggest thing that people say to me is, I need more time. And really time management is task management, and task management is better systems, right? So that is my perfect client, is someone's like, I love what I do, but I need more time and I don't know how to get it.
So when we see in small businesses, somebody has a great idea, it's their dream to have a business, they go boldly into that dark night with really not a lot of guidance and help. In your experience, I know you say systems, but what consistent mistake do you see small businesses make initially?
I think the big one is kind of what you just said, is who remembers the E-Myth by Michael Harper? Okay. It's all of us that are older. But the E-Myth is basically based on entrepreneurial seizure, right? The idea that I can do that better, and you just, as you said, you just launch into it headlong and you go, I'm going to do this. And the biggest mistake is not seeing if it's viable in the market and not having the financial sustainability to see it through. And those are the 2 most common reasons businesses fail. And then after that, as the business grows, not being able to maintain it because they didn't have systems in place that were scalable. So probably the biggest mistake is just not seeing if it's a viable business in the first place. Although there are a lot of mistakes, I mean, I just think that's kind of what entrepreneurs do, is we just kind of go for it and we see what happens. But I would say that's the biggest one. Other questions?
So when you say systems, is it like the paperwork process of the business, the backside of it, so to speak? When you're out there selling your product, or talking, whatever your business is,
Right.
but you get bogged down with something. So is that what you're referring to? How you like to help the businesses?
Yes, so I break a business up in basically 6 business systems and 2 personal systems. So the business systems would be strategic, financial, human resources, operations, marketing, and maintenance. And I take each of those, and I go, okay, what's your system for strategic planning? Do you schedule yourself for strategic planning once a year? What does that look like? How do you evaluate if your strategic plan is working? Sometimes it's paperwork, sometimes it's scheduling. When we look at marketing, what are your systems for marketing? How do you know what works? Where are you going to put your marketing? How are you going to decide if the where you spent your money is viable? How are you going to do the marketing so you're not doing it all the time? So what systems are in place for that? Those are a couple examples. Maintenance is a kind of a silly one, but it's an important one. Do you have a schedule for maintaining your place? If you have a physical space, do you have a schedule for getting the windows washed? Do you have a schedule for getting it cleaned? And those things, instead of always saying reactively, being like, crap, I gotta get the windows washed, or I gotta get this done. What are the systems so that does it itself? It takes care of it itself. Customer management, a lot of people will take on a customer and then the management behind the scenes gets kind of messy. And they're like, wait, did I get that customer this information? I can't remember if I did. So setting up a system to help you manage your customers well so that when you have 100, 200, you remember what each of them needs. Those are the business systems, but I start with 2 personal systems, and the first is the owner's health and what their personal systems look like. Health, wellness, mindset, what are you doing to take time off? What are you doing to decompress? There's a lot of productivity connection with getting time away, and we're so afraid to get time away as a business owner that we just think we'll plow through. So what are your personal systems? And then the second thing I work on is your environment. And the environment is who you surround yourself with, who your inner circle is, who your network is, where you go to get support when you sit down and have coffee with somebody and talk about things that are frustrating you. What does your network look like? What does your home life look like? What does your support system look like? So I address those 8 systems, personal and environment first, because that will set the health of the business. And then we get into the business and we break the business down into those 6 sections and make sure that each one has something, a system, not only a system to make things easier, but that when you need to hire help, it's built and you can hand it to somebody. Because that's the other thing that I see is when you're busy enough that you need help, you don't have the time to train somebody because it's all in your head. How many people know business entrepreneurs or have been one, I've been one, where it's all in my head? You know, what if something happens to me? I know Cherie's here, we're the same that way. But if something happens to me, then I need to get that out of my head. Or maybe something happens to me great, like I want to go on a trip for a year. If those systems are on paper, I can easily hand them off to somebody else. So that was a very long answer to that question, but basically that's how I help with systems. Replicate things, streamline things, and scale things. Yeah.
Someone who's like really focused about trying to get people to be more organized, how do you view to-do lists? I've heard kind of differing opinions on whether or not to-do lists are counterintuitive or not, and whether or not they actually are just trying to help you kind of be more consumed by that busy work, like making sure somebody's cleaning the windows and rather than just kind of keeping. How do you think?
Yeah, the conversation about to-do list is like, does everybody have about a week that we could sit here and talk about that? My feeling about to-do lists, or my feeling about any system, is that you need to make a system that works for you. So I rarely think one system works for everyone. I'm not a to-do list person, personally. You know, we say, I have priorities. Priority is meant to be singular. You can't have 7 priorities because then none of them are a priority. So when we have a list of priorities, we've immediately defeated the purpose of a priority, right? So I'm not a to-do list person. I'm an eat the frog person. Anybody familiar with eat the frog? Yeah. Brian Tracy, eat the frog. My to-do list is to do the worst thing first thing in the morning. If you eat a frog, with the exception of today, because I love talking about business, but if you do the worst thing you can do at the beginning of your day, if you eat the frog, once you eat a frog, your day can only get better from there, right? So I am a fan of eat the frog, and then the rest of the day follows.
Write that down, eat the
Yeah.
frog.
If you have not watched that video from Brian Tracy, I think it's called Eat the Frog, but if you Google Eat the Frog Brian Tracy,
There's
you
a
gotta
book
read
too.
that. What?
There's a book too.
Yeah, totally. That's a good one.
So when you're starting with, your preference is to work with small business or one person up to 5, but what about working with an individual person in a corporation?
I have done that, I do a lot of leadership work. So I have absolutely done that with people who are in leadership positions, even if it's for a small team of people, or somebody that just wants to get more organized. I can definitely do that. My stuff is for sure geared more towards small business owners, but a lot of system stuff translates. So I've done that. I have not done it as frequently as working with small business owners.
So what is your, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I think there's a question right there.
When you take on a new client, for expectations, how long do you usually work with them? For how many hours?
I really like 6 months because I feel like that's time to be able to work through everything. I have worked with people where we do a 1-hour consult of their biggest pain points, and I put together a blueprint for them, and they can work with that and see if they like that, and then we can carry on from there. But in terms of a longer relationship, I really prefer 6 months,
So
at least.
How many clients can you take on at one time?
I like to take 1 or 2. I am a parallel entrepreneur. I have multiple businesses, and so 1 or 2 is what I like to do because I can really focus and not do a bunch of stuff at 50%. I can do a few things at 100%. So 1 or 2 clients at a time. You had a question?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out how we can help you. Are things going, swimmingly, and you're,
Yeah.
happy as a clam, or is there a challenge you're facing that you'd like some input?
I think the challenge I'm facing is getting it locally. I love speaking to groups. I love speaking to businesses, so connecting me with people that want that would be great. And I would love to connect with entrepreneurs who need my services locally. I have worked nationally for a long time, and I do a lot of stuff like Wendy was saying. It doesn't even necessarily look like I'm in Wenatchee, and I just would love to do more face-to-face stuff with people here that need my services. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say is connecting me with local people.
Is your business scalable?
Yes.
So you could actually bring other people on, teach them what you're doing so they could do more? You could do more of this since you only want to do 1 to 2?
Oh, that's a great question. This part of my business, I'm intentionally not interested in scaling. My
Okay.
scalability is that I have online courses that I sell, and those can be, they're evergreen. Any number of people can buy them, and it doesn't take more work for me. So I think scalability is not always good. Sometimes you have to stay intentionally small. So I have parts of my business, my massage school is intentionally small. All the time people go, you should grow that, you should expand it. I'm like, nope, my business model is to not do that. So the scalability for my consulting business is in my online courses.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question because scalability is not always the goal. Anyone else? Cool.
Do you have, outside of your courses, do you have things in place where you are not necessarily exchanging time for money?
The podcast, although the podcast, that more just gets me clients rather than doing that. But yeah, I mean, my massage school, I'm not exchanging time for money because I have a lot of guest teachers doing that. Probably the online courses is the main place that I do that. I have a couple other businesses where I'm not exchanging time for money. I'm a landlord, and I do that. So I have 5 businesses, and those other 3, that's what they do. But in terms of this business, the main thing where I'm looking to not exchange time for money is in the online courses. And the speaking is time for money, right? But I just really enjoy it so much that I probably wouldn't give that up. Any other questions? Well, thanks. It was fun.
So one more, we always go. As an entrepreneurial community, when you walk away today, what one thing can we do to help you succeed? I heard you say more local
Yeah.
How in your mind you vision us doing that for you and with you?
As you are connecting with people and you know them to be small business owners and you see that they have a need for organization, startups, or even established business, connect them with me.
Retail or service, any kind of business, right?
Any kind of business. Systems are universal.
Okay. And then finally, how do they find you? If you have a website, I know probably not a physical location unless you operate out of the chiropractor.
No physical location. AnnieLaCroix.com. My name, LaCroix, like the water, which the best thing about that water is now people know how to spell my name. Anyway, AnnieLaCroix.com, like the water.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Any other questions for her? Thank you so much.